Amidst the ongoing concerns within Mali, of an emerging constitutional vacuum and crisis, following Colonel Assimi Goita's failure to abide by the timelines set in the decree that he issued on June 6, 2022, in which he pledged to end his transitional term by March 26, 2024, and return the country to a democratic process, a fresh decree has been issued by his administration, banning until further notice all political activities within the country. The decree, which is nothing less than a response to the March 31, 2024 press briefing by political parties and civil societies in Mali, in which they demanded for Assimi Goita to facilitate elections and return the country to a constitutional order as soon as possible, was issued on the Wednesday of April 10, 2024, and thus banning the holding of such press briefings within Mali in the near future. Announcing the indefinite suspension of the political activities was Colonel Assimi Goita, who serves as Mali's Minister of Administration and Decentralized Governments, and while at it, he gave 3 reasons that the authorities in Bamako cited for them to suspend the political activities. The same being political reasons, technical reasons, and security reasons, and without saying much, take a listen at him make the announcement here.
I have
the distinct honor of reading a decree suspending the activities of political parties and any political activities of associations. The President of the Transition and Head of State, having seen the Constitution, having seen the Charter of the Transition, and having seen the Law No. 2022-001 of February 25, 2022, revising the Transitional Charter, decrees that the first 2 articles are suspended until further notice, for public order reasons. That is, the activities of political parties and activities of a political nature of association on any extent of the national territory. Article 2 of this decree will be registered and published in the official journal. Thank you. It is very important that we give you some explanations which pushed our authorities to take such a direction. The decree, which has just been read, is a measure. It is a measure of public order, whose aim is precisely to preserve the general interest. It is not a decree which targets a particular political party, nor a specific association. It's an impersonal measure, motivated by a number of reasons. I would first like to mention political reasons, and then security reasons. You will remember that, on December 31, 2023, His Excellency Colonel Assimi Goita, President, and the Transitional Head of State, during his address to the nation, took the initiative of engaging all the Malian people around a direct inter-Malian dialogue. This dialogue is all the more important, as Mali finds itself in a critical phase. I'm telling you absolutely nothing but the truth. The forms of terrorism that we have experienced here, of course, are forms that have evolved. First of all, it is terrorism which is carried out essentially by external actors. Then, it is terrorism which has merged with community conflict. Today, this community conflict has sufficiently damaged both the unity of our country and national cohesion. So, the objective sought through this dialogue is really to definitively resolve the problem of community conflict, and subsequently, terrorism. The more isolated the terrorists are, the easier the fight and neutralization becomes for our defense and security forces. But unfortunately, in many regions, this is not yet the case. As I say, there is a form of amalgamation between community conflict and terrorism. Obviously, on March 26, when we hear certain actors mention hypotheses that have no reason to be, the hypotheses largely supported by the Constitution of July 22, 2023, of course by the Transition Charter, all the provisions are clear, and well mentioned, that we are not at all in a vacuum, or a legal vacuum. The transition continues. Now, what are the technical reasons? We have discussed a number of technical reasons. On September 25, it was technical reasons that we discussed. The first technical reason was the database problem, which we were able to resolve, thanks to the commitment of some of our compatriots. Then, there was of course the question of the adoption of a certain number of derivative laws, which must, let's say, fall within the framework of the application of the Constitution. Then the security argument. I think it has been very clearly said that with the capture of Kidal, I think the head of state himself, in his address to the nation after November 14, 2023, actually said that the capture of Kidal and other localities does not at all mean the end of terrorism. Terrorism is an asymmetric threat. Of course our adversaries and our enemies on the other side keep adapting. It is true that for some time, they had a modus operandi that was almost symmetrical, because they were controlling a part of our territory, but today it is no longer the case. The entire territory is controlled by our visible defense forces and security, but it remains for us no less than terrorism. As I say, it is a threat, and we must remain extremely vigilant. I think that, somehow, all the recent attacks that you see in Gao, or in other neighboring capitals, and in other localities, necessarily show that the enemy has adapted, and is starting to have a new mode of operation. And in this circumstance, we say we cannot accept, first of all, the sterile political debates which take us back to where we came from, in a very complicated situation. We must move forward. Once again, as I told you somewhere, it is true that in dialogue, one of the objectives of the inter-Malian national dialogue is to mend the social fabric, which has been greatly shaken. So we cannot just accept the political forces, or political debates, to disrupt this dialogue. This is the reason why our authorities have decided to suspend. It is a suspension of all the activities of political parties and associations having a political character. It is an impersonal measure, at the risk of repeating myself, which does not target a particular party. It is very important to put an end to this recreation, which sows a lot of cacophony. You will agree with me that practically, at the end of the week, we only talk about sterile debates. But today, when I say the only debate that deserves to be conducted in our country, it is the national inter-Malian dialogue. What I wanted to say once again, let us, each time we intervene on the public stage, try to have a deep thought for all the victims of insecurity in our country, and especially for localities, which today are still threatened by the action of terrorist groups. If you look today at a locality like Menaka, it is imperative that from time to time, the army gets involved in the supply of basic necessities. As I said, the army has made an immeasurable effort, an immense effort to redeploy itself throughout the national territory. We made an immense effort to get out of a certain number of traps, such as the Gate of Algiers, the departure of the Barkhane, and of course other forces, which often had hidden agendas in our country. We can't honestly accept certain actors take us back into these very painful experiences. We are obliged to move forward in communion. It is important that we meet around this direct inter-Malian dialogue, which today constitutes the only dialogue we have. We do not have two other dialogues. We cannot accept being told by other people, or get dragged into totally sterile discussions. Thank you for your very kind attention.